Think of a game like The Sims, but instead of building an aesthetically pleasing house in a nice suburban area, you're planning and building the layout of an entire city in a frozen dystopia. And it's cold, really cold, and it just keeps getting colder. And instead of managing a family of 8 Sims, you're the general of a society of about 80 to 600 people. Everyone's depressed, terrified, or freezing to death, and all the pressure to help them survive is on you. And, to top it all off, the only way for you to get your people through the frost is by making some really morally questionable decisions. Yeah. Frostpunk is a survival strategy game with a mix of town builder elements to it. It was released in April 2018 by 11-Bit Studios, and that name might ring a bell for you. They've released other amazing and well-known games such as Children of Morta, Moonlighter, and even This War of Mine, a game that players say really hits the heart. Frostpunk really hits the heart too, be it through the heartwarming stories of families getting reconnected or from the stress of everything going wrong all at once. The latter happens a lot. The world is set in the British Empire, 1866. Snowstorms started to take over the world, and so scientists went on expeditions to the north to figure out why. In their wake, outposts with heat generators were set up. Suddenly, an apocalyptic ice storm took over the south. People were forced to evacuate out of London and trek up to the north. The heat generators became bases for their homes. This is where you, the player, take over. We can boil down the mechanics of the game into 4 things. First, you've got the building side of things. The heat generator now works as the center and source of power for your entire city. You'll have to build tents and facilities around it to keep everybody warm. But know that every single step your people take counts. Every moment they're at risk of getting frostbite and dying. And losing people is the last thing you want, but don't worry about it. It happens. A lot. The reason you want to hold on to your people is you're going to need them to do stuff. To keep everyone warm, you'll need to collect coal. To build more stuff, you'll need to collect wood and steel. To keep everyone alive, you'll need to gather or grow food. Or, be doctors and stuff like that. You start off with just a few buildings in your menu, but you'll definitely need more. For that, we go into the second important part of gameplay, and that's your research tree. You'll need to invest resources into a bunch of these things, and they're going to help you survive the winter. Then there's a third thing you'll want to dive into, expeditions! You'll be sending people out into the rest of the world to gather more resources, and there are some areas where you can find more survivors to join you. The more people you have in your city, the more you'll be able to assign to collect resources and do other tasks. And finally, going back to those morally questionable decisions. If there's one thing your people are great at, it's complaining about absolutely everything. You'd think that everyone would want to work together to survive through the cold, but nope, everything you do is subject to full criticism from your people. But each law has its pros and cons, and trust me, you will hear about it from your people. But really, eating soup every day to save on resources should make sense, but they're not going to agree with that. And yes, you can send kids into the mines. Anyway, there is also a choice between using power and authority versus faith and religion to govern your people. Again, each choice has its pros and cons, and be warned, some things that pop up can get pretty dark. It's probably what you expect. There's a bunch of other games that Frostpunk has to offer. The one you play as soon as you get into the game is called A New Home, where you set up camp. But these other modes give you a better glimpse into the world of Frostpunk. Do you know what the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is? It's this massive storage area located in the Arctic where they keep seeds of all kinds of crops. It serves as insurance, a backup plan, in case the world is ever at risk of losing its crop diversity. And that's exactly the story of the game mode called the Arks. The Arks are facilities keeping seeds for all kinds of crops to aid in restarting the world, if the frost ever goes away. You have to start up the generator, collect more resources to keep the power going, and finally, you have to create as many automatons as you can. These are huge machines that can do all the resource collection and manufacturing, ensuring that when all your engineers eventually die from the cold, there is still something protecting the world's second chance at life. Now that's just a very, very brief look into a game that I've actually already sunk over 100 hours into. The lore is expansive, the game gets really, really hard, with your people being more easily discontented, and there's a sequel to the game too. And you know what makes that one harder? Your people can vote. Politics, woo! My point is, city builder survival games often don't get the flowers they deserve. With the release of Frostpunk and its sequel, I think it's a good time to shed some more light on how challenging and intoxicatingly addicting they are. Even if it takes me 100 times to try and complete the Fall of Winterhome game mode without everything blowing up in my face. If you're interested in trying the game for yourself, I've put the game link in the description box below. Hope you like this super short introduction to Frostpunk.